Warning, this podcast contains heavy spoilers for not just one movie, but entire franchises. We highly recommend going and watching these movies before listening to us as a companion piece that stitches all the timelines into one creepy, crime-ridden story. There will be no more spoiler warnings. We do not break character. After this, there is no turning back. You've been warned. Hit the music.
You are talking about the nonsensical ravings of a lunatic mind.
It's alive! It's alive! It's alive! It's
alive! It's alive! It's alive!
Hello and welcome to It's Alive podcast. This is a true crime, paranormal, interstellar podcast covering unbelievable stories that sound like they were ripped straight from the pages of a Hollywood script. I'm your host, the outlaw Dr. H. R. Smoking THC, and with me as always is my very own Scream Queen, the perfect combination of beauty and brains, the bride of Smoke Scene, the India horror, the expert of guts and gore, the gorgeous, the sexy Amy Rose.
Nice.
And I'm looking forward to this. I've been looking forward to this since the day we started this podcast.
I can tell.
This story has been on my mind a long, long time. And since we covered a killer with daddy issues last week, I thought a killer with mommy issues
Just
would be
to round
the
it
best
out.
follow-up, you know?
Yeah.
Even though we've been on a run of that, haven't we?
Have we?
Because, I mean, JD in the attempted school bombings.
Oh, mommy issues.
Mommy and daddy issues.
Oh, well, yeah.
Because
both.
mommy was dead and daddy was a
An
prick.
asshole.
Then you had last week Mark Lewis.
Mm-hmm.
Dad's doing experiments on him.
Mm-hmm.
And this week we got a family that would rival the water boy and his mama.
Oh, definitely, if not
Mama
worse.
said. Plus, this is our Halloween season.
It is.
This story is going to bridge us from one side to the other side of Halloween.
Yes. Yep.
Because we've got part 1 this week, part 2 next week, and this
And
is a
part
big
3.
old 3-parter. Because this is a big old story that needs to be told.
Yes.
So with that, are we going to just jump straight in? Let's get into this Norman and Norma Bates. See,
Absolutely.
I know who the killer is and all that stuff, but I just felt like the two of them come as a package and you need to
Oh, well,
have
they
them
do.
both in the title.
Yeah.
Norman and Norma Bates.
Good idea. Okay, well, tonight we're going to step back into mid-century America to the small town of Fairvale. A quiet place, the kind of town where everybody knows everyone and nothing much seems to happen. But behind closed doors in one particular home, a nightmare was quietly unfolding. This is the story of Norman Bates. Norman would later become one of the most infamous killers in American history, but to understand how he got there, we have to begin with his earliest years and even his birth.
Good. We're starting with the literal beginning. So let me guess. Nothing about this was abnormal.
Not at all. Nope.
No.
In fact,
Oh, sorry. Nothing about this was normal.
was normal.
Nothing about this is... yeah, my bad.
Norman's birth was very traumatic, and his delivery was so complicated that his mother, Norma Bates, was left with long-lasting physical effects. She survived, but it was a most brutal entry into the world, and some would say an omen of what was to come.
So basically the kid was causing problems from before he opened his eyes.
What kid does
Not
it?
a great start to life.
No.
But we were in this, I mean, our first kid came out. We were only talking about this the last day. Our first kid came out, and I knew from watching TV that they come out, they cry, they hand them to the parents. Everything's happy, happy, happy. Our kid,
Didn't
they were
cry.
like, you got like 4 hours left until this child's coming. Then 10 minutes later, the room is full of panicking nurses and doctors.
People wearing wellies.
Baby comes out, no noise. Everybody's quiet. And I was like, uh-oh. And they rushed him off over to a little kind of one of these little
They have their
incubator
little-
unit thingies.
Yeah.
And next thing I heard him crying, I was like, oh, we're good. We're
Thank
good.
God,
we're good,
we can take the gas and air off for now.
Oh.
So the problems with Norman only got worse after his birth. According to research later unearthed by journalist Tracy Venable, Norman's early childhood was marked by violence that he didn't even understand at the time. When Norman was still an infant, his father, John Bates, was murdered.
Murdered?
Mm-hmm.
Thought Norman always said his dad died from bee stings.
Well, that's the story that Norman always told, but the truth was much darker. John Bates had been carrying on an affair with Norma's sister, Emma Spool. And when John refused to leave Norma for Emma, she snapped. And in a fit of jealousy, Emma killed him and even went so far as to briefly kidnap Norman.
Okay, so let's just pause here, right? Family drama level fucking nuclear.
Yep.
You have cheating husband, jealous sister, baby caught in the middle of all of it.
Yep.
That's soap opera meets true crime. I think we got a new plan here and we got to write the soap opera, The Bateses. Bates Motel. I feel that would be a good name for our TV show.
Bates' Beach. Like Dawson's Creek. Emma was quickly caught, deemed insane and institutionalized.
That's going to be a theme throughout.
Yep. Norman was returned to his mother, but of course he never knew the truth. Norma told him even that his father had died after being stung to death by bees.
I mean, bees are terrifying, sure, but that's not exactly the same as your aunt murdered him and with her bare hands and tried to run off at you.
Exactly.
It would give me a lifelong fear of fucking bees, though.
Well, yeah, if I thought my dad died from them. Yeah. And this lie just shaped Norman's childhood memories. At just 6 years old, he attended what he thought was his father's funeral for a bee sting. And in a moment that would haunt him, Norman accidentally laughed during the service. His mother had touched him in a way that made him squirm. He was ticklish and he burst out laughing in the middle of the ceremony.
And that's the one time you absolutely can't laugh at a funeral, even though fun is right there in the name.
Yeah, I think people deal with it differently, though. I know family members that have laughed during, but it's people handle it differently. It's not laughing at the fact that you're at a funeral.
Well, the Irish just turn it into a party.
Oh, yeah. Laughing's afterwards.
Bit of trad music and chats.
Norma immediately reprimanded Norman for laughing and scolding him for being disrespectful. To her, Norman's laughter was a moral failing, another chance to remind him that the world was full of sin. But to Norman, it was the beginning of a pattern. Every natural instinct he had, every slip of emotion was something his mother punished.
No, I was listening, right? And we'll get to it a little later. But a lot of what we're learning here, right? Some of them come from books called Psycho by Robert Bloch, right, which is the autobiography of Norman Bates. But a lot of the information we have for this particular episode comes straight from the horse's mouth. Norman Bates himself, right?
Okay.
Later on in life.
Yeah.
He heard, without, I suppose, cats out of the bag if you've heard of the Bateses, but he heard a radio show where they were discussing matricide, which is killing your mother.
Yeah.
And he rang in.
Okay.
To have a chat. And once they realized who they had on the line, they kept them on the line, and he kind of filled them in on a lot of what happened in his youth to get him to what we'll be talking about next week. Or even what we'll be talking about partially by the end of this episode. But he himself said, I know, like in the book, it kind of says, like, she just caught him in the wrong place and it was ticklish.
Yeah.
He reckons now, later on, looking back, she did it on purpose. So she'd have a reason to give out to him. To be able to have an outburst at him at the funeral. But she intentionally tickled him, according to him. This is what he said himself.
It's like the moms that wake the newborn babies up so that they can get the attention from the
Yeah,
baby.
you should hear this shit. It's crazy. It's out there. There's a whole fucking hour and a half of him discussing this with a radio DJ from, it was like the early 90s, 1990.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Okay. In the years after his father's death, Norman began to display troubling behaviour. He was shy, isolated and socially awkward. While other boys played sports or made friends, Norman withdrew into solitary hobbies. And one of these hobbies was taxidermy.
Taxidermy. It's not what your average kid would do as a pastime.
No.
Well, while everyone else is out there playing catch, Norman's like, I'll be in the basement stuffing my birds.
Yep.
And if I said that as a teenager, you just assume I was up to something dirty.
Right.
Go and stuffing the bird. Nice.
Well, it may sound unusual, but for Norman, it was a form of control. Preserving animals gave him a sense of stability, an ability to freeze life in place, something that he never felt in his own chaotic home.
Yeah, but let's be real. Kids messing with dead animals is never a good sign in a true crime story. Remember Jeffrey Dahmer? Jeffrey Dahmer started with little tiny animals in little tiny jars. And by the time he was finished, he had big gay men in big gay jars. I don't know if the jars were gay, but they were big jars.
I was wondering. Life in the Bates household was dominated by Norma. She was strict, controlling, and deeply distrustful of women. She taught Norman from an early age that women, aside from herself, were corrupt, sinful, and unworthy of love.
She's the devil, I tell you. I'm
Yep.
not going to be able to get... I wonder, does Kathy Bates have any relation to these people? Is that why she was picked for the role in The Waterboy?
Maybe.
Kathy Bates, Norma Bates.
Ooh.
Dun, dun, dun.
Write her a letter and ask her.
The devil!
I have a theory, Kathy. Norman grew up believing that his mother was the only person in the world that he could trust. This made him desperately dependent on her for companionship.
So basically, she was running a one-woman cult, and Norman was the one follower.
Yeah, it's a fair way to put it.
Okay.
Norma's influence, it's so hard to keep going between Norma and Norman. I'm getting tongue-tied.
Hell. I mean, it's almost like from day one, she was tagging him as like her male...
Yeah.
To get that close. 'Cause I mean, short of calling him Norma Jr. I mean, you know, it's kind of had to go with Norma. And
I think I'm just going to call her the mother in future.
The
Going
mother.
forward, the mother.
Mrs. Bates.
Mrs. Bates is better. Norma's influence was so extreme that Norman became incapable of forming normal relationships.
Norma.
Oh, that one. And when natural desires did surface, they only confused and frightened him.
Right, so there was one incident that shows just how warped his relationship with his mom was, right?
Yeah.
During a storm, Norman tried to comfort her. This was a regular thing. This is how attached they were. Do you know in the scene in Ted that when the thunder goes off and Ted comes rushing into the room and they do the Thunder Buddies for Life song?
Yeah.
Similar to that, except Norma's already in the bed and she's calling Norman so that they can do their Thunder Buddy song. But anyway, in that moment, no, Norman is a teenager at this point.
Yeah.
And I'm not ashamed to say it, I've seen pictures of Norma from the time. Fucking wood. Hot as fuck. Oh, Norma Bates back in her, let's say late 30s, maybe early 40s. Whew.
Nice.
But obviously Norman thought so also. because as they were spooning in the bed, he became a little aroused. Natural biological response at that age, but one that horrified.
Is it really a natural biological response?
As a teenager, anything could get it standing. I remember, I was only thinking about this the last day. I don't know what we were watching. What were we watching? We were watching... Yeah, we were watching something where it was some spoof on something where the kids were at a dance and... Was it SNL? It was SNL where they were allowed grind on each other.
Yeah.
They were going to grind on each other. And I remember thinking, yeah, fucking right. I remember like anytime I kissed a girl in my teenage years, so I'd start right up against her like this. Anyone that's watching the video can see now my fingers, and slowly my legs would have to keep backing up and backing up and backing up.
She
So
get
I
an
wouldn't
old
poke her
poke.
with it. No, obviously knowing as an adult now, if she felt that poke, I might have gotten a bit further. But at the time, you're embarrassed of it, and you just start, nudging your ass out further and further and further.
It's
to try
shitty
and
that
push
you're
it away.
embarrassed. I understand that it's embarrassing, but I mean, like you said, it's normal. Like
Well,
teenagers, you can't.
Imagine as a teenager, if every time you fucking touched off of another fella or pressed up against another fella, your boobs went rock hard and was really obvious.
It sounds sore.
Well, it's not. It's not sore. It's the muscle. But I mean, that's the point. It's uncontrollable.
Yeah,
it can
I
happen
getcha.
for any reason, anything. And again, Norman's not used to regular relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Norman's not used to dealing with normal women. The only woman he is used to dealing with is
Is
his
his
hot
mom.
ass mom, Norma.
That's true.
I know he's in bed with her. They're wet. They're cuddled up. They're playful. This is how Pornhub fucking videos start, Amy.
Well, it wasn't his stepmom. His mother.
They always put the step in there to get away with it. the
Exactly.
dirty
It's just a
beggars.
technicality. His mother found out about this when she later discovered a woman's undergarment catalogue hidden in his room. Furious, she forced him to destroy it. She told him that one day she would regret not being stricter with him. Norman began spying on his mother after that, noticing that she herself was losing her mind.
What happened was when he ran off, when he panicked over having the boner, he ran off into his bedroom and covered himself up. And she obviously, a mother being a mother, was like, what the fuck is wrong with him?
Yeah.
What's up? And as she was trying to kind of get it out of him, she's just kind of casually perusing his magazines in the book and found the lingerie book in there and made him walk out in the storm in his underwear and shirt and dump it.
What a way to ruin any future intimacy.
I mean, you've got a teenager who's sexually confused, emotionally stunted, and he's spying on his mom. I think the recipe for disaster is already fucking in play here.
Yep. And it escalated. On another occasion, Norman playfully doused his mother with orange flower water. She tackled him playfully at first, but the contact caused him to have another involuntary erection. And this time, Norma noticed.
Oh, God. Here we go.
Her reaction was furious.
The devil!
She forced him into one of her dresses, applied lipstick to his face, and called him a girl. Then she locked him in a closet, telling him that it was to make him forget about his penis.
That's not discipline. That's psychological torture. Ask Gary Ridgway. Ask, who else did that? Oh, yeah, Ed Gein, who is very, 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 very close to this story. Almost like they inspired one another. But
I would say locking your teenage son into a closet so he'll forget about his penis when there's nothing else to do in that closet is the one surefire way
him
of...
to be a wizard.
What?
Harry Potter. Wasn't he locked in a closet?
Under the stairs.
I wonder was it for playing with his wand too?
Probably. No, he wasn't allowed to play with his wand, was he?
Can't play with your wand, get under the fucking...
Just like your mother and father.
Into the closet with you.
By this point, Norman's life was one long spiral of shame and repression. Every normal urge was punished and every emotion was twisted. When the outside world began to intrude on the Bates household, things only got worse. When plans were made to build a new freeway that would redirect traffic away from their property and their small family business, the Bates Motel, Norma lashed out at her son in frustration. She told Norman that she should have killed him while he was still in the womb.
Wow, it's not even hidden cruelty. That's just straight up telling your kid, I regret your existence. That's like the I should have had an abortion. You were a mistake.
Awful.
There's a huge difference between telling someone they were an accident and a mistake.
Oh, yeah. An accident is completely different to a mistake.
It can work out to be a good thing. Mistakes happen and you bring an eraser to get rid of them.
Exactly. It was one of many blows that chipped away at Norman's fragile psyche, but the breaking point came when Norma met a man called Chet Rudolph.
Chet.
Straight
away, you know.
Mm-hmm. Norma began a relationship with Chet, and for Norman, it was devastating. His mother, the woman who preached that love and sex were evil, was now intimately involved with a man that Norman despised.
Hypocrisy!
Mm-hmm.
I mean... That's got to fry his fucking brain straight off the fucking bat. How much does it piss you off every time? Like, it used to annoy the shit out of me as an adult when my mother would be like, don't curse. And then I'd be listening to her walking around the house, fuck this, fuck that, fuck this. It's like, hold up, lady.
Because she's trying to raise you.
Oh, don't you start, right? Don't even fucking give me that line of, I just don't want you to get that bad habit. Too fucking late, lady. I mean, she spends years, so Norma here, she spends years telling him, women are, fallen, sex is filthy, relationships are wrong, and then she shacks up with a guy named fucking Chet.
Yep, exactly. And to Norman, it felt like the ultimate betrayal.
I feel betrayed.
Yeah.
Fuck you, Norman, me going on about how hot you were and you're fucking off with some dude named Chet.
Calm down with this obsession, Josh. Jesus.
Chets are never good. If you not watch TV, Chets are always dickheads.
Yeah. No,
name
Chet's
one good
Chet.
TV Chet.
I don't know any TV Chet. I can't think of a TV Chet. I just
pretty sure the brother in Weird Science, the older brother, was named Chet.
I haven't seen Weird Science.
I've seen the movie once. I've seen the TV show. I used to watch the TV show though. That's why I remember he was Chet.
Okay.
I don't know if Bill Pullman played him in the TV
Bill.
in the movie.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it was the same name, but he was definitely Chet in the TV show. And in the TV show, he was played by the guy from Oz. Do you know the guy who shacked up with the Nazis, and he has a relationship with the guy from Law and Order.
What's his name? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
he's Chet in the TV show version.
Oh, cool.
So he's actually an asshole. So it was really weird for me to watch Oz and see him being all soft and nice.
And yeah, I liked Oz. Anyway, Norman felt abandoned, replaced, and humiliated. His mother, the only person he thought he had in the world, was a hypocrite.
The betrayal was too much. And it was at that moment that Norman's own descent into madness really started to start moving.
Yep. So by this stage, Norman Bates was already showing signs of a deeply troubled mind. He'd been lied to about his father's death, warped by his mother's dominance, humiliated by her punishments, and finally betrayed when she began her relationship with Chet Rudolph.
And again, I mean, you talk about Chet. There ain't many Rudolphs out there either. Who's got a good lineage?
Rudy Giuliani.
Huh?
I'm assuming he's Rudolph.
I'm just saying. Surname. And this will be in the 50s. And your surname is Rudolph. I'm not making any accusations, but there were certain people in the late 40s, early 50s that had to make a bit of a run for it who might have had the surname Rudolph.
Is it a German surname?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Rudolph
cool.
is.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's all.
I'm pretty sure it's German. Let me check this. But I'm pretty sure there's a few Rudolphs that got in trouble.
Rudolphus.
Rudolph. Name. Origin.
Irish.
Oh, well, it's a Jewish name, so maybe not. German origin, combining the elements of fame, glory, and wolf.
Oh.
It means famous wolf. It's a pretty
Chet
fucking
famous
badass name. Oh, doesn't that just make Chet seem like more of a Chad?
Yeah.
Chet Rudolph, yeah.
For
Gonna toughen you up, Norman.
For Norman, that betrayal was the final straw. And what came next was the act that sealed his fate. The moment he went from victim to killer.
Right, because nothing says healthy coping strategy like poisoning your mom and her boyfriend.
Exactly. Norman decided to punish his mother for what he saw as her hypocrisy. On one hand, she'd drilled into him even that sex and relationships were filthy and corrupt.
Yeah, they are.
On the other hand, she was now living with a man in open intimacy, living in sin.
Yeah. Only way to do it.
The contradiction shattered Norman's fragile psyche. In his mind, the only way to resolve the betrayal was to remove his mother from the picture entirely.
Could have removed religion from the picture entirely too. No,
that would have helped.
Would have been fine.
Yeah. One evening, Norman prepared a post-coitus drink for the pair laced with strychnine. That in itself, the way that might have been a normal thing for him to do is a bit creepy. Well, you finished your sex, Mom. Here's your drink.
I don't think it was to hear him talk about it. It doesn't seem like it was more of a thing because, like we mentioned earlier about the boner where he splashed his mom with some water. Mm-hmm. She liked the way he made certain drinks for her, and he was like her little butler.
She had him trained.
But the point of it, the thing about it was that when Chet came into the picture, those demands revved up, and when Chet, who was a real manly man jock kind of guy, started to kind of see the submissiveness of Norman to Norma, he played on it and almost teamed with Norma to make fun of Norman for the way he was. So her getting him to bring a drink after they've had sex, that would be almost like a power play of look what I can make him do. You know, he's heard us rattling around up here, and I was like, Norman, ring the bell, come with my drink. You know, he was like a trained monkey around the fucking house, you know.
Well, he served the drink to his mother and Chet and watched as they drank it as if he were staging a performance.
And this is kind of why I don't want to have a monkey anymore, even though I've always wanted a monkey. Trained monkey, great, but he pissed off the trained monkey.
Yep.
Something bad could happen.
And moments later, both collapsed in agony.
Told you. Watch Planet of the Apes, man. They're coming for us. So poison is one of the most attached ways to kill as well.
Yep.
You sit there, you watch, you let chemistry do the job, you know?
Must have been traumatic because I've seen strychnine poisoning take effect in a dog, and it looks like an absolutely fucking agonizing death. First, your back legs get paralyzed.
Let's not ask Amy what she does as a pastime.
Not that.
It's just why we have a pet cemetery out our back garden.
Do we? That's news to me, Josh. So.
Well, I gotta bury your victim somewhere. Run, Caesar, run.
You better not let anybody dig in the back garden because it's full of strychnine. No, I'm joking. But Norman didn't just kill them. He staged the entire scene as a murder-suicide.
That's thinking.
He forged a note in his mother's handwriting, making it appear as though Norma had killed her lover and herself in a fit of despair.
I wouldn't have judging off the time difference. To be 20 years in between the crimes, did JD know about the story about Norma and Norman Bates? And is this how he came up with the idea of when he was staging the Heather's murder-suicide thing?
Maybe. I'm having a hard time when you're saying JD. You said it twice this evening. My mind's just automatically gone to Scrubs.
Well, that's because we're rewatching Scrubs at the moment. Jason Dean. I was going to call him James Dean.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, so basically Norman went full playwright, just like JD did. Not just murder, but a production complete with props, staging, and a forged script.
Exactly. And the ruse worked.
Of course they would. Who'd blame little old, fragile, quiet Norman?
Yep. When the authorities arrived, they found the scene exactly as Norman had set it. A tragic double death, a grieving son, and no reason to expect the shy, awkward young man who claimed to have discovered his mother and her lover. But the truth is, Norman himself didn't fully realise what he had done. After committing the murders, he slipped into a psychotic episode. And when he woke up, it was as if he was discovering the bodies for the first time. The shock overwhelmed him. He collapsed, uncomprehending, and was committed to a psychiatric hospital.
So not only did he fool the cops, but he also fooled himself.
Yeah.
That's next level. That's really how you get away with a lie. You trick yourself into believing the lie.
Exactly. There's no other way to get away with it. And doctors noted his fragile state of mind, and according to one report,
patient exhibits severe shock, memory lapses, and dissociative tendencies. Displays extreme dependency on maternal figure coupled with inability to reconcile her loss. Translation: the guy couldn't process what he had done, so his brain just said, nope, we're going to block that bit out right there.
Yep.
Build a wall.
And it was during this period in the hospital that Norman's grip on reality loosened even further. He began to hear his mother's voice, and he saw her in his mind, alive, scolding him, guiding him, refusing to die.
Do you know what's a weird thing, right?
Well.
And I wonder if there's up from years of my dad screaming at me to get out of bed. But and it was always the weirdest thing. When we were teenagers, my dad it's almost like he took issue with me sleeping late.
Mm-hmm.
And I know late, it would be about lunchtime. But he'd come in for his lunch, from work.
Mm-hmm.
We'd find out I was still in bed and come barging into the room and be like, get out of bed. Come on. I'm off. I have nothing to do today. Let me sleep. I was out last night. But now every now and again, I will be deep in sleep in a dream. And suddenly, it will be a roar. I'll just hear, Josh, in my ear, but it's always my dad's voice. And I just instantly, eyes wide open, body is wide awake. And it's like, what the fuck?
Weird.
He's still alive, he's still grand. It's not like a ghostly thing. Like he's sitting in his fucking office at work and he's like, that bastard's still asleep. Josh. Into my ear. Wick.
And when Norman was released back into the community, he took a chilling step. He dug up his mother's corpse.
Yeah, this is where it officially goes from troubled young man to horror story.
Yep. And when he exhumed her body, replaced the coffin's weight with books, and smuggled her remains back into the Bates home. Using his taxidermy skills, he preserved her as best as he could. Norman then created a kind of half-life for her. So he dressed her, placed her in a chair, and carried on conversations with her. But it didn't stop there.
Right. This is the birth of Mother.
Yes. Norman began splitting his identity. Sometimes he saw himself, or he was himself, Norman Bates, but other times he became Norma, dressing in her clothes, speaking in her voice, and channeling her personality.
Do you know what he should have done? Stuck her in the bog for a few weeks.
Oh, yeah.
If you want to know more about that, check out Playing with Bones. Dropped yesterday on Patreon at the Horrorverse Network, where we talk about bog bodies, ice bodies. And yeah, that's it. 2 ice bodies, 1 bog body.
One's a mummified ice body.
Either right away. Norman.
Ice mummies, ice bodies, bog bodies.
So half his mind was still Norman at this point. But the other half belonged to Mother. So this is split personality 101 here.
Yep. And this wasn't just a performance. It was full-blown psychosis. Norman believed that by keeping his mother alive in this way, he could preserve their bond. But it also meant that any time Norman felt attraction or had any thoughts of desire, Mother would step in, furious, jealous, and punishing.
So every time Norman had a crush, Mother was still, nope, not today, not ever. She's the devil. Get back to stuffing birds, young man.
Exactly.
Again, thank fuck they didn't live in Ireland, because if she kept telling him to stuff birds, he would be doing exactly the opposite to what she wanted him not to do.
Doctors would later describe this as a case of dissociative identity disorder, though at the time the terminology was different. The technical notes called it pathological maternal identification with psychotic features.
I need to break it down and make it smaller so we could say it better.
Yeah.
So it is a fancy way of just saying he became his mom, and his mom was not the nurturing type.
Yeah. And the transformation was gradual but irreversible. By the end of this period, Norman was no longer just Norman Bates. He was also Norma Bates, living as her, speaking as her, and punishing as her.
Imagine that, your mom punishing you from beyond the grave.
You punishing yourself because you think you're your mom.
Fucking chasing yourself.
You're
around the
grounded.
house with a wooden
Oh,
spoon.
shit. This dual existence allowed him to cope with the unbearable reality of what he had done, but it also set the stage for years of violence to come.
Because in half your if half your brain belongs to your mother, who constantly tells you sex is evil and everyone's out to get you, that half's eventually going to want to kill people.
Precisely. And in the years that followed, that's exactly what happened. Norman's descent wasn't a sudden fall. It was a collapse decades in the making. He was traumatized from birth, lied to about his father's death, subjected to emotional abuse, shamed for normal desires, and finally betrayed by the only person he trusted. When he killed his mother in Ched, it was an act of vengeance and an act of desperation. By preserving her body, by becoming mother himself, Norman ensured he would never escape her influence.
It's like he killed her body, but he kept her ghost alive in his head forever. Like, you know, just only the ghost didn't just haunt him, it kind of like possessed him.
Yeah.
I don't think she's a ghost. I'd say demon would be a better word there for you.
Demon, probably. Yeah.
Instead of
yeah.
Annabelle, you got Norma.
So you're right with that. And the possession would shape every murder that he committed from then on. So now we've seen Norman Bates evolve from a shy, awkward child into a traumatized young man, and now into something far more disturbing. A man who lived half as himself and half as his dead mother. And in this next part, we'll see how this double life played out at the Bates Motel. How Norman, living under mother's jealous eye, lured in victims and punished women he found attractive and concealed everything behind the mask of a polite, nervous innkeeper.
Have we even mentioned the motel up until this point?
We have.
We have, definitely.
Yeah, we talked about the rise, mentioned about the
The
road.
freeway.
Yeah.
They ran a motel, yeah. So
There you
just
go.
in case people didn't know. I mean, so let's be honest, this is the creepiest vacation experience imaginable as well. You know, you check in, get dinner, and then get murdered by your host in a wig.
Exactly.
Sexy.
Norman Bates was no longer just a disturbed son. He was a killer in the making. And by the time Norman Bates returned home from the hospital, he was no longer just a man. As we said, he was two people. Part of him still Norman, nervous, polite, painfully shy, but the other half of him was something else entirely. Mother.
These days, we just call them they, them.
They, them. Norman had stolen his mother's body, preserved with crude taxidermy skills, and set her up in a chair in the Bates home. But it wasn't enough for him to simply keep her corpse. He gave her a voice. He spoke as her, and he dressed as her, and he punished himself through her.
And just when you thought family dinners couldn't get any more awkward, I wonder you see like get up and move chairs.
Just to talk. Hi, Norman.
Yeah.
Hi, Mom.
Well, I mean, like last week, the Horrorverse headlines, you were sick and couldn't do it. So I decided to do it on my own for once. And I swear to God, if I had even like 1 or 2 days more to plan for it, knowing what was coming next,
You were switching.
I was going to get myself a pink wig and just jump from chair to chair, or else record one part and then record all the answers afterwards as you. And I thought that would have been hilarious.
Probably drawn more numbers. You're sexier in a pink wig than I am. With his mother alive inside him, Norman took over the family business. The Bates Motel became his livelihood, though the construction of the new freeway meant fewer and fewer guests came through.
He must have had good life insurance because he kept this place open for fucking decades.
I suppose if you own the place, if it's already in the family, if you're not renting it, is it easier to keep? I don't know if it was in the family, but must have been.
Sure.
Norman lived in a cycle of quiet routine, running the motel, caring for the house, tending to his preserved mother, and battling the constant jealousy of that erupted whenever he felt attraction toward women.
So basically, he's working the front desk by day, sewing dead birds at night, and arguing with his mom's ghost 24/7. Sounds like the worst Airbnb in history.
Yep, they'd be getting a bad rating. Norman's double life...
Not a good Yelp review.
No. So his life was a careful balance. To outsiders, he appeared harmless. He was awkward, yes, but also polite and attentive and eager to please. He spoke fondly of his mother as though she were still alive and waiting upstairs, but behind closed doors, mother ruled the house. Whenever Norman felt drawn to a woman, a guest, a passerby, even someone he glimpsed in the town, mother would surface. Her voice would hiss in his mind, accusing him of sin, warning him that women were filthy, corrupt, and dangerous.
It's like he had an internal sensor that didn't just wag a finger at him, it picked up a fucking knife.
Exactly. Yeah.
Chased him around the house with him.
And under Mother's influence, Norman began to kill. The pattern was always the same. A woman would arrive at the motel. Norman, being lonely and desperate for companionship, would feel drawn to her. He might chat and share a meal and even smile for once. But as soon as desire stirred in him, Mother appeared. In his mind, it was always his mother's voice, shrill and accusing.
She'll take you away from me. She'll ruin you. She must be stopped. And he said, no, Mom, I'm going to ruin her. I'm horny. Fuck, it's been months, years.
And in those moments, Norman would cease to exist. Mother took over.
And that's when guests stopped checking out permanently.
Yep. And these killings were brutal but precise. Norman, dressed as Mother, would stalk the women even, and attack with a knife. These were frenzied stabbings, driven not by sadism but by jealous fury, and each victim represented temptation, and Mother destroyed them.
So Norman wants intimacy, Mother wants control, and the women caught in the middle never stood a chance.
Yep.
Notice how the whole script has changed to Mother now that she's dead, so it's easier.
Thank God, it's easier in my poor mouth. The killings went unnoticed for some time. After all, travellers often disappeared in those days. Hitchhikers, young women on the road, they could vanish without raising immediate suspicion.
In fucking the late 50s?
Oh, yeah. Sure, you're not checking in with people like every while. Like, so I go, oh, yeah, she's gone travelling.
Check their location on Facebook.
And Norman was meticulous about covering his tracks. He disposed of bodies quietly, using the swamp behind the motel to conceal his crimes. The water became his graveyard, swallowing his secrets whole.
Pro tip, and I learnt this from playing Red Dead Redemption, never trust the swamp.
Yep.
There's always someone around in there that wants to eat you.
Alligator.
Or, dead bodies.
That
near
too.
the Bates Motel.
For Norman, it was the perfect disposal site. Cars, belongings, even entire suitcases. Everything sank beneath the water, vanishing into the muck.
And you just know he'd stand there watching it sink, muttering to himself, well, that's sorted.
Yep.
Problem solved.
Easy peasy.
Back to the grind.
Neighbours in Fairvale noticed Norman's odd behaviour, but no one suspected the truth. He was just the quiet man who ran the failing motel. People thought he was lonely, eccentric, a bit odd, but not dangerous.
We've all had kind of something similar in our community, especially you go back into the 90s and stuff like that. There was always kind of
that quiet
one
person,
older gentleman who did not get married, who did not get
a bachelor,
yeah. Not a confirmed bachelor. We know what they were in the 90s too. They usually had a roommate.
Oh.
But just some dude that never settled down. And usually they were quiet, a little eccentric, but harmless.
Exactly.
And that is something that constantly comes up about Norman, is harmless.
Yeah. One local actually described him as the kind of man who blushes when you say hello. Like another called him shy but sweet.
Classic. Everyone always says that about serial killers. So polite, so quiet. Yeah, because he was saving his energy for knife fights in bathrooms.
Exactly. Norman's politeness was his camouflage. No one would think that the stammering innkeeper was capable of murder. And when police did investigate the disappearances, they never connected them to the Bates Motel. But as the years went on, Norman's mental state deteriorated further. Mother wasn't just a voice in his head anymore. She was an entire personality. He began to lose track of when he was Norman and when he was Mother. At times, he would black out completely, only to find himself later disposing of a body without remembering the murder itself.
Imagine a horror waking up one morning, realising you got blood in your hands and a car sinking in the swamp out back and thinking, oh, must have been Mom again.
Yeah.
I mean, can you even really blame Norman at that point? Do it's just like an Ed Gein situation all over again, whereas you kind of got to feel a bit sorry for the killer,
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's exactly what it was like for Norman. The disassociation became so complete that he genuinely believed his mother was alive and committing the murders herself. And when questioned, he would insist he had nothing to do with them, because in his fractured mind, that was the truth.
Yeah, doctors who studied the case later explained it was a textbook example of dissociative identity disorder born from trauma and abuse. And you asked this to me during the week. He was like, do you think this shit is something you're born with or something that brought on through trauma Doctor just answered your question there. Born from trauma and abuse.
Yeah.
One psychiatrist note says, the patient internalized his mother so completely that she survived as a distinct identity within his psyche. This altered personality dominated the patient, controlling behavior whenever sexual desire or independence threatened to emerge. In other words, his mom lived rent-free in his head and refused to leave.
Yep. And as mother grew stronger, Norman grew weaker. He was no longer just a man pretending to be his mother. He was two people battling for control of the same body. Does sound like a demon.
Yeah, spoiler. Mom usually won.
It's important to note that Norman's killings weren't motivated by pleasure or cruelty. Unlike many serial killers, he didn't enjoy inflicting pain for its own sake. His murders were compulsions, acts of fear and jealousy born out of mother's twisted morality.
So less I like killing and more my mama told me.
Yeah, exactly.
Like I said earlier on, you kind of feel for him a little bit.
Oh, yeah. And that's what made Norman such a terrifying figure. He wasn't just a killer hiding in the shadows. He was a man at war with himself, enslaved by the voice of his dead mother.
In other words, it's not like you could pick him out of a lineup as the serial killer.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
You have him, Dahmer, Gacy, Bundy standing there. Norman's probably the last one you're going to say it was him.
Yeah, probably Gacy
fat
first.
Clown in the middle, definitely. Then followed by maybe
Dahmer, then Bundy.
Bundy, you could slide by all right, but you'd be like, there's something shifty about him too. But
out of all of them, Bates would be the least likely. So by this stage, the Bates Motel was no longer just a roadside business. It was a stage for murder, a trap where vulnerable women met their deaths. And Norman Bates, polite, awkward, smiling Norman, was the perfect disguise for the monster within.
You check in, he checks you out permanently. Said it already, said it again.
Yep.
That's just the way it goes at Bates Motel.
Yeah, exactly.
Like a roach motel.
What's a roach motel?
For
prostitutes. No?
No.
Oh, I thought you check in.
Minded
When you check in for a few hours
roach
to check out again.
motels, we don't have them because we don't have roaches. You know, do we? I've never seen a roach.
Cockroaches.
Yeah, so a roach motel is like a trap where they go in and they get stuck inside. They can't get out.
I thought I just learned a new word for hooker. Okay.
I like to be politically correct and call them sex workers these days.
Sorry.
You know?
Okay, sex worker. So for years, Norman Bates lived two lives. By day, he was the quiet innkeeper of the Bates Motel, offering a timid smile and a polite welcome to the occasional guest who strayed off the old highway. By night, under the influence of mother, he became a jealous executioner, eliminating anyone who threatened his fragile bond with the woman he could never truly escape. But the walls around Norman's double life could only hold for so long. Eventually, people began to notice the disappearances, and suspicion started to creep toward that lonely house on the hill.
Yeah, you can only chuck so many cars into a swamp before someone goes, hey, doesn't anyone think it's weird that the Motel Swampland USA never has any, return customers? Then you'd have to imagine it starts stacking on each other one by one eventually.
So the first serious red flag came when guests who stayed at the Bates Motel were reported missing. Young women traveling alone, secretaries, drifters, and in most cases there wasn't enough evidence to launch a full-scale investigation, but patterns were forming. Local law enforcement in Fairvale received letters and phone calls from concerned relatives.
Classic true crime moment. Families are noticing the patterns way before the police do.
Absolutely.
But I will say, it was so common for people to go missing or to just pick up sticks and, move and start over and shit like that. A lot of these cases aren't Norman of these young women going missing. In fact, we're about to get into it, but there's actually only 2 confirmed kills between the one we're going to talk about next week, Norma and Chet, and a girl named Marion Crane, who we're going to talk about next week.
Okay.
He only committed 2 verified murders in that space of time.
Okay. It's still, though, Norman had advantages. The new freeway diverted most of the traffic away from the motel, which meant fewer witnesses and fewer questions, and he was able to operate quietly, almost invisibly, under the radar of the investigators.
But even the most careful killers will make mistakes.
Yes. Yep. And after the deaths of Norma and Chet Rudolph, Norman Bates' life changed forever. On the surface, he was a lonely young man trying to hold his world together, but in reality, he was living with the preserved corpse of his mother and carrying on a twisted existence in which half of his mind belonged to her. Norman told himself he was only keeping her alive in spirit, that by giving her a voice, dressing as her, becoming her, he could cope with her loss. But it didn't stop there.
No, Mother wasn't content in just sitting in a chair upstairs. She wanted control. And soon she demanded blood. And here's where Norman graduates from poisoning family members to straight up legit murder.
Yep. The first victim was a local woman named Holly Camille, who caught Norman's attention not long after he brought his mother's corpse home. Holly wasn't anyone unusual. I mean, she was just a girl from Fairvale who happened to smile at Norman one day and maybe even spoke to him in a way that felt warm. For Norman, that tiny flicker of human kindness was dangerous. It stirred feelings that he wasn't allowed to have. He began to fantasize about Holly, imagining a connection and even intimacy. But every time those thoughts arose, Mother intervened. In Norman's mind, her voice was furious.
She's trying to take you away from me. She'll ruin you, you filthy boy. So Holly went from nice girl next door to public enemy number 1 in about 5 seconds flat, thanks to Mother's commentary track.
Thanks, Mom.
And again, there are 2 very different versions of this story. You're about to go through the version from the book that we read, and I will tell you then what I heard Norman himself say.
Okay. So one evening, Holly passed by the motel. Norman invited her in under the guise of small talk, maybe coffee, and maybe just a nervous attempt at companionship. But inside his head, Mother was already sharpening the knife. When Holly smiled at him, when she made him feel even the faintest hint of desire, the transformation happened. Norman ceased to exist and Mother took over. And Holly never left the motel alive. Her body was hidden with quiet efficiency. Norman dragged her in lifeless form to the swamp behind the property, the same swamp he would later use again and again. Weighted down, she sank into the murky water, erased from sight.
That swamp burns its first frequent flyer miles.
Yep.
But see, this kind of leads you to believe that Norman almost predatorily brought her into the house. Norman's version of the story, when he was clear mind, medicated, and certified sane, was she came and flirted with him. He actually tried to get rid of her. He was like, I'm busy. I got some work to do around the motel. And she kept pushing the issue. And he's like, my mom's asleep upstairs. You can't come into the house. And next thing, she's coming in, following him into the house. Next thing, she's lying in his bed and flirting with him and all this. And he stood up, said, I'll be back in a second. Walked out of the room and came back dressed as Mother and did the killing then.
Okay.
So it wasn't a case of he tricked this girl into the house so that he had a reason to kill her. He did everything in his power to get her out of the house before Mother realized she was there to come and get her and realized what she was looking for.
Okay.
She just wanted to give Norman some loving.
Oh. So to Norman, all this was horrifying. When he came back to himself, he claimed not to remember the murder. But deep down, he knew. He told himself it was his mother's doing, not his. And that was the beginning of a deadly pattern. Not long after Holly's disappearance, another woman came into Norman's orbit. Her name was Gloria Evers, I would say.
Gloria was bolder, more flirtatious. She teased Norman gently when she passed through the motel, sensing his awkwardness. For a man starved of female attention, even harmless flirtation was overwhelming. But again, this woman was supposed to be... what's a way to say this without getting myself cancelled? She was there with her husband, but she was the husband was gone to the bar for a few hours, so she jumped into the car with Norman and started kissing and a hugging and a touching and stuff. And Norman
maybe they had an open relationship.
Yeah, let's say that.
Okay. Norman blushed, stammered, and felt torn between wanting her company and wanting to run and hide. Sounds like being a teenager, but Mother saw only danger. In his head, her voice hissed louder than ever.
She's laughing at you. She's mocking you. She'll destroy you like all the rest. So in other words, Gloria thought she was being playful and Norman's brain translated that into a death sentence.
Exactly. And that night, Norman spied on her through the peephole into her room. His desire battled with his shame until Mother surged forward once more. Knife in hand and dressed in his mother's clothes, Norman entered the room. The attack was frenzied, brutal. Gloria never had a chance.
Like Holly before her, Gloria's body was then taken to the swamp. Norman used the same method as disposal, ensuring no trace would be left. Now, the thing is, right, by now the swamp has become a part of his ritual. It's like the final act of concealment, a way to bury not just his victims, but his own guilt. But the thing about the swamp is they don't stay quiet forever. And funny enough, according to Norman, again, the book, it was just Gloria was stabbed and dumped. According to Norman, Gloria was stabbed, thrown into her boot closed, and started to wake up as the car was sinking and was banging on the boot. So she woke up. So she actually drowned in that swamp while covered in stab wounds.
Awful. After Gloria's death, Norman was devastated. He told himself it wasn't him. It was Mother. Always Mother. She was the one who couldn't let go, who lashed out, who killed anyone that threatened their bond. And so Norman made a vow. He swore to himself that he would take back control and that he wouldn't let his mother's voice dictate his actions anymore. He promised himself there would be no more deaths.
And that would have been a nice ending if he had actually stuck to it.
And our podcast would end here.
Yes.
But Norman Bates couldn't escape himself, and his promise did not last. Because one rainy night in 1960, a young woman named Marion Crane pulled into the Bates Motel. And with her arrival, Norman's fragile balance would collapse completely.
So Holly and Gloria were just a warm-up. Marion Crane, that's where the legend of Norman Bates truly begins.
Exactly. And that's exactly where we'll pick up in our next episode, the true downfall of Norman Bates.
Right.
Yep. So if you want more horror and crime fun, then head on over to patreon.com/the Horrorverse Network and check out our bonus show. It's a live action because tomorrow we'll be dropping our bonus show episode where we will talk about a man very similar to Norman Bates, and that is the Butcher of Plainfield, Ed Gein.
And that will be a multi-week story. I can't wait to dig into it. While you're there, check out the rest of our Patreon exclusive shows like Amy's Horrific History show, Playing with Bones. We are just after covering, like I said earlier on, bow bodies and Icemen and so on and so forth. Preserved fucking bodies from the past. It's interesting. What did we do the week before that again? Oh, we did Mass Graves.
Mass Graves.
The week before that, which was also amazing. So check that out. She's got 2 more weeks of fun topics to come. We also have Celebrity Rap Sheet. Season 1 is up there now in full to listen to. And I have season 2 and 3 ready to fucking record.
Good job.
But you're going to have to wait for that. So far, we have classic movie scandals with Fatty Arbuckle, Mabel Normand, William Desmond Taylor, and the Black Dahlia.
Yep. All that and mini monsters are now available at the Horrorverse Network on Patreon. So subscribe now for only $5 a month with a 7-day free trial for all new subscribers. And if you're into gaming, you can catch me on Twitch every Monday from 10 p.m. to midnight Irish time, which is 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. US time. That's on Twitch at AmyRose9.
And bear with her on that. There's been some growing pains there. We're working
teething
on it.
Issues.
She might be there Monday. She might not be there Monday.
I might have thrown the
Tune in to
laptop at the
find
wall.
out. We'll be back next week with more tales from the Horrorverse. See you all then. Same alive time, same Horrorverse channel. Kate, love you. Bye-bye.